ED1B, pod,
Six. Three. Okay.
pod 3, okay. Exactly the same level of kind of prompting, not necessarily questioning. The Assembler Song Challenge, provided the lyrics, chords. Who was the main kind of catalyst? Who got the whole thing kind of going?
I don't know, I guess it was like everyone. Well, I started like playing the chord progressions, but like all of them didn't really fit, so like I just ditched like the rest of the chords and just played E major, A7 and diminished D major 7 I think.
Okay, was it E major or E minor?
I think it's E major.
Was it? Okay,
I think so.
cool.
Yeah.
So when you came up with that framework though, once again, exactly like these, this is why I want to kind of reinforcing these points. You then have set the tempo and the time signature
Yeah.
for that track, sort of generally, yeah? Okay, so once you've done that, so that's come from the guitar, Joe was doing some really nice stuff on the keyboard, but he only did that the next time I came in when it was the more refined version where he came up with this really nice sort of top line melody, came up with particular sounds that he was using. Rather than start or kind of going straight to that, let's sort of look at the rhythmical side of things. So, Harvey, how did you know what to play at that point?
Well, we didn't have a bassist, so I thought like kind of need like stronger drums.
So no one's interested in the bass player anyway.
So I kind of wanted to play a bit more of a complicated beat, not too mad, but something a bit louder, just to sort of make up for bass a bit.
Cool. So you were occupying, or how I would see this is occupying a space in that sort of sound spectrum, as it were, rather than having something which, as I described earlier, which was just like a basic beat, adding in more kick drums or maybe some ghosting on the snare or perhaps some additional sort of patterns with the ride cymbal. It occupies more of a space there, and it is like the difference between a guitarist just kind of clipping the notes or ringing them out, or a bass player kind of just clipping it or letting the note ring out. What it will do is that occupy a sort of a larger proportion of the song, yeah. So fair play. But you were governed though by that initial guitar stuff, that framework. Cool, okay. But there was a nice dynamic build. Again, I remember your track, there were things I really enjoyed about that kind of stayed with me. So you've got that bit. Let's move on to Joe. Joe, you there was no bass player. Do you remember I made that comment about splitting the keyboard? We'll have to look at that, where you can play maybe the root notes at the bottom, but I would guarantee, and again this is something for you guys to consider, any bass players in the room, consider what the drummer is playing, and the kick drum pattern often may dictate exactly what you're playing on the bass. You know, instead of it just being like a boom, it might be a boom, 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 and it will be, you know, ideally those two needs to be really in sync, so it sounds like the kick drum is like triggering the bass sound, yeah? They can work really well, and they occupy less space in some respects. Once you've got a note ringing out, there's kind of, it's occupying all that. It's not, it's the wave pattern isn't jagged, it's just like long and straight. And you'll notice this when you look at music audio and you look at audio waves, you'll see this sort of stuff, and we'll cover a lot of that. But I really like your top line sound. It was like a vibe sound, that sort of thing. How did you choose it?
Oh well, Mark was just playing the chords, and then I was just making it up as I go along.
But I remember you saying you can remember anything. If you hear a melody, you can then just play it straight away on the keyboard. That's one of your unique sort of things that you discussed before. You wrote it on that post-it note, I remember. So did that serve you really well, that you were able to pick out a melody straight away? Yeah, great. So once again, it's a good example of you not being tone deaf, and that you hearing what is right and what is wrong. And yet again, another example of you perhaps using knowledge of some scales in what you played as well, over the top of that chord sequence, yeah? Cool. The sound though, did you fiddle around with the sound for a bit, or did you go straight to it, or?
Yeah, I fiddled around with it. What sounded good or not.
Was that your choice, or did any of the other guys say, try this, try that?
It was just my choice.
Fair play. I like that. Be assertive, Joe. I like that. Okay, now we've covered that. What about vocals?
Oh yeah. So first, when we got the lyrics that were given to us, Lauren didn't quite know how to deliver them. Neither did I. So I just sort of assessed them, and I highlighted each different rhyme pattern in a different colour.
Yeah,
So,
great.
For example, with the satellite, we're done in yellow tomorrow, and follow we're done in purple, just random colours.
Right, so
then
you're
we try
looking
to
at the
figure out
rhyme and how you're going to intend to make that flow.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, what I really liked about what you guys did, obviously you did an element of freestyle in there. Well, you wrote the lyrics out in the end, didn't you? But it was you providing rap, which nobody else had done throughout the entire duration. But Lauren, I remember you came up, excuse me, with a really nice flowing top line vocal melody. Really suited your voice. It was lovely to listen to. But how did you come up with the notation around? You have the lyrics in front of you, but is it something you've never done before, coming up with an original top line vocal?
I've never tried it before, so I pretty much just we just kept playing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
I was figuring it out, and then just sang it.
So trial and error a little bit.
Yeah.
You sang something which you probably recognise may have not have been the right note to go to within and then you made those adjustments until it was right. But you'll find your knowledge will improve, and like Joe, you'll get to a stage perhaps where you'll hear things and you'll know the notation. And I know you're looking to learn instrumentation like Ellie did last year. And that knowledge will serve you really, really well as a vocalist, because having that knowledge of chords and scales and notation you can use within it, they'll be your sort of go-to melodies that you can put over the top. But really, really nice. And it had, what I liked about what you guys did, it had a really good dynamic about it. Everything had its place, very much like the other examples that we had, but very different in genre to everything else that I heard throughout the day as well. Give them a round of applause. Thank you.